Or I'm ready. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Covington City Council meeting for Tuesday, May 14th. In compliance with state law, City Council special and regular meetings will be held in a hybrid format with in-person, telephonic, and virtual options for public viewing and participation. With that, we'll call this meeting to order. And Christy, if you could please call the roll.
Councilmember Soltis,
I am here.
Councilmember Porter,
Here.
Councilmember Hartsock,
Here.
Councilmember Harjahausen,
Present.
Councilmember Samomo,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith,
Here.
and Mayor Wagner.
Present.
We have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you, Chris. If everybody could please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, with our agenda, we have some changes tonight. Lake Point will not be here to give, or Toll Brothers will not be here to give us an update during public communication. And then if council will work with me, we are going to make some, we're going to fly with the public communication proclamation later on, so that'll be flexible. And then we'd like to add a new business item number 4, which is an emergency ordinance of the City Council of the City of Covington relating to adopting a 12-month moratorium on the acceptance, processing, and or approval of applications for building and land development permits and related land use decisions for battery energy storage system facilities to be located within the City of Covington. So with that, Regan, is there any other changes?
No, that's it. Thanks, man.
Okay. With that, is there approval of the amended agenda?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the amended agenda. All those in favor state aye. Aye. Any opposed? The agenda has been approved. With that, we're going to do our first public communication. If council could please join me in front of the dais. We have a proclamation that we would like to present. No, I think I'm good. I worked on the bottom of this second food, so I don't flip. Oh, okay, well then we'll do both of them. Thank you. So the first one I'm going to do is, if Bob, I believe you're receiving this first one for Public Works Week. So our proclamation is, whereas public works professionals are integral to the infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and flourishing communities and to the public health and well-being of the people of Covington. And whereas these infrastructure facilities and services could not be provided without the public works professionals who are responsible for their stewardship and improvements. And whereas the 2024 National Public Works theme is advancing quality of life for all, which epitomizes how public works professionals contribute to and enhance the quality of life in all the communities they proudly serve. And whereas we appreciate the City of Covington Public Works Department employees who are honorable representatives of this cause, with all their expertise and efforts to the service of all our citizens. Now, therefore, we, the City Council of the City of Covington, do hereby proclaim May 19th through the 25th of 2024 to be National Public Works Week in the City of Covington, and encourage all citizens to join in honoring public works professionals who are dedicated to maintaining and improving the quality of life for present and future generations. And Bob, I want to thank you for being here to accept this proclamation. And I know that Public Works has probably not noticed that much, except for when there's snow and ice storms, and how great the city of Covington is on maintaining our roads, but also not just maintaining the roads, but designing, maintaining the infrastructure, the planning, and everything that goes into keeping our parks and everything going. So thank you for that, and I'd like to present this to you. And is there anything you'd like to say?
Mayor and council, once again, we accept this on behalf of more people in our group and more service we're providing. You guys continue to trust and support us, and it really empowers us to make the best decisions for everybody. So thank you.
Thank you. Please pass on our thanks to everybody. Oh, gotta get a picture.
Can you hold up your front?
There we go. Straight. There we go.
Okay, gotta show it off.
Thanks, Bob. All right, we do have another proclamation that we'd like to give tonight. This is kind of a surprise proclamation. We asked for this because of all the extra work that goes into helping our community. All of the passion, the history, never saying no, always saying yes, and helping with what can be done, not saying what can we do, but how can I get it done? So the city council would like to recognize an individual. And I would like Jennifer, and you can bring your family up.
Sure.
Okay. I was gonna have them present.
Thanks for the offer.
Yeah. Well, Jennifer, first off, before I read this, I just want to say how much I have enjoyed working with you on not only at the storehouse, but at Chamber. And where it may seem it's our loss and King County's gain, you've moved to Covington, so I know that we're going to continue seeing you. I know that you're on Rotary. Hopefully you can still, but I know that we're going to see you around here. And just your presence alone can raise spirits, bring smiles to people. And it was always, whenever you asked me to do something, I was there because I knew it was going to get done. So I didn't have to worry about the background stuff. I just needed to show up. So thank you. So this proclamation is whereas the City Council of the City of Covington wishes to recognize Jennifer Liggett for her enthusiastic involvement and dedication to the community through her tireless work elevating local nonprofits and businesses. And whereas Jennifer played a critical role in the success of the Storehouse, one of Covington's most impactful nonprofits, which under her leadership as executive director has risen to meet the challenge. I lost my space. Of an increasing need for food security and nourishment in the community. And whereas during her tenure on the Covington Chamber of Commerce as executive director, Jennifer helped develop the chamber into a valuable resource and champion for our many local businesses and increase its membership numbers and participation. And whereas the leadership and passion Jennifer brings to all her endeavors will be greatly missed, and we honor her many contributions to the Covington community. Now, therefore, we, the City Council of the City of Covington, do hereby recognize Jennifer Liggett and ask all citizens to join us in this special observance and appreciation of her great contributions to and impact on the City of Covington. And Jennifer, I just want to say it's been a pleasure and an honor to work with you, and I know I'll keep seeing you. So thank you. Yeah, and I'd like to present this to you.
Okay.
And is there anything you'd like to say?
Yeah. Of course. Thank you so much, Council, for recognizing the work that we did. I just get to be a fearless leader in this motion of different things that come into action. And it's never about me, it's always about we. So I wouldn't be able to do what I do without an amazing council and an amazing storehouse team and an amazing chamber team that we had. So Covington is truly growing towards greatness, and I'm so happy to be a part of that greatness.
Thank you, Jennifer. Congratulations.
Yes.
And the storehouse board members are here tonight as well. If they could join us for.
Yes, please.
We're missing Rob, but.
Wherever. Yep.
Let's make it make like
Thank you. And we're going to take 10 minutes. We do have some refreshments in the back. Oh,
Pretty much.
Oh, you have one more.
Pretty much.
yeah.
We're trying to get all the board members. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
So we're going to take a recess till 7:30 and there are refreshments in the back to help celebrate Jennifer. Thank you.
Let's go.
Just general business.
Yep. Good evening. Well, let's come back to council meeting. Thank you all for being here to honor Jennifer. Oh, thank you. Yeah. All right, let's come back to order and let's move on to public comment. Speakers will state their name, address, and organization. Comments are directed to city council, not the audience or staff. Comments are to be related to city business. Comments are not intended for conversation or debate and are limited to no more than 4 minutes per speaker. For attendees participating by Zoom, click the raise hand button. For attendees participating by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand. Once the city grants permission to speak, press unmute in Zoom or dial *6 to unmute by phone. Just a notice, campaigning for any ballot measure or candidate at City Hall or during council meetings including public comments is prohibited by state law RCW 42.178.555. Looking at our sign-in sheet, I see Sonia Foss. Welcome. You here to speak? Oh, come right up to the podium. State your name and whether you're a resident of Covington or not.
Sonia Foss. I'm not a resident. I live in Renton, 22029 196th Avenue Southeast, Renton. But my business, of course, is Foss Market in Covington. Been there 97 years.
Wow.
So the reason I'm here is Brian Byconen paid me a visit over a week ago. And he said that our corner was in violation because we had a food truck on it. And I said, well, we've had food trucks off and on for several years. And he goes, well, it's not in your zoning. And he goes, you're going to have to go to the city council and you're going to have to ask for an amendment. Well, I read over and we are like lone rangers. We are in community commercial. I think we are the only community commercial in Covington. I might be correct. I couldn't find anybody else that had our zoning.
I don't know right offhand.
Yeah, I couldn't find it. So my property and my sister's that borders me, I think is the only one. But is this something new? Did you change it? No food trucks or I couldn't find it. I have the code here. And I mean, I could read it to you, but it's too long. But it just says, it doesn't say anything about that. But I bet Selena would know. And I should have called you and talked to you about it. And I'm going to call Selena because here's the problem. And I want to make this real fast, but this family went out and spent a fortune on a brand new food truck, Venezuela. and they have wonderful food because they wanted to park it on my property. And when Brian came up, he said, no, 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 well, they're out, that's their livelihood. That is their livelihood. They're looking, I said, you're gonna have to find another place to go until we resolve this, and they're looking. And that's something that I'm gonna try to help them with, but right now I'm asking if we could work on an amendment for my zoning to allow food trucks, which we've already had for several years, but I'm just asking for that.
Yeah, they'd have to go through planning, I believe, to do any code amendments. And I'm not aware of that because we haven't made any changes up here that I know of.
Well, okay, I
So-
was told there was 2 ways to do it, to come to the council meeting and
Yep.
ask, do an ask. And then from there, go the next road. So I'm just asking right now.
Yep, so we would go through planning and to look at that amendment. And Regan, is that, we would take that to planning to have that, to look at the code and stuff? or-
That would be the process if it's something council decided they wanted to do.
Okay,
Is there a timeline on this? Is it like these people have nowhere to go right now? And I don't really quite know what to tell them other than,
go ahead, Selena.
Yeah, I'll just kind of give you a quick process update. So this would be considered a code amendment because we have mobile vendor code that was adopted, I believe, in 2019 or 2020 roughly. So it would be amending that code to include those other zones that we would want to have mobile food trucks permitted. So the way that this generally works is that they could come in, apply for a code amendment. There's a fee for that that then goes through the planning commission because this is a Title 18. So there would be a planning commission process, public hearing with the planning commission, then ultimately a recommendation back to the city council. The alternative method, which I think is why Brian told Sonia to come tonight, is that if it is the will of the council collectively, you can just add that to the planning commission work plan, and then we would reprioritize that. And then I could come back if there was any costs associated that budgetary with the council. Otherwise, we would add it to our work plan and then still go through that same process. So it's a matter of who's absorbing that cost.
So it was, just to clarify, this was something that was added in 2019,
Yeah, I was looking-
2020.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Because of-
recall. The city didn't have regulations on mobile food vendors. And then we adopted those regulations, I believe, while I was gone. So I'm gonna assume 2019 or 2020, I've seen some head nods. And those regulations, I believe, only allowed mobile food vendors in your mixed commercial and town center zones. So they don't include any of the neighborhood commercial or the community commercial that's at the northern end of the city. So that would be the amendment that would be made. Would be changing the permitted uses for
Okay.
mobile food trucks.
Sean,
Along those lines, I guess I would be in favor of putting it on their work plan, but I also had a question. I've seen food trucks in some of our communities. Fairwood, comes to mind. Is that,
Kimberly,
yeah, is that,
Maple Hills.
so if that's legal, why could they just go talk to Fairwood HOA and put their food truck over there?
And I believe that those are considered like temporary,
Mhm.
so they're coming in either for an event or a day. But mobile food truck that's gonna be there for a longer duration, such as we would generally see in your downtown area. Those ones fall within those regulations.
as a
Okay.
permanent,
As a permanent.
Yep.
Yeah.
okay.
is
A
there
more
anywhere,
permanent.
is there anywhere in Covington that they can go, the food trucks right now as the zoning is? and-
Yeah, they could go anywhere that's, in the mixed commercial zone and the town center zone. So the mixed commercial zone is pretty much everything on the north side of 272nd. And then the town center, other part of the mixed commercial is everything kind of on the south side of 272nd. I do know we've had a few mobile food vendors come in for some sites that are along Covington Way that were just recently.
They were there in
approved.
the church for a long time,
Right.
the Mexican.
Yeah.
Truck,
Yep.
it's gone now,
It's-
and actually that was in my yard for quite a long time.
Right, and unfortunately, that zone, the mixed housing office zone, was not one of the zones that they were permitted in our downtown either. So this would be an opportunity for us to maybe ask ourselves the question of, what zones do we want to allow mobile food trucks in? Because right now we've really narrowed those locations and it sounds like there might be appetite to widen that. So just depending on what the will of the council is.
So
we
is
can
there
proceed.
council consensus to have this? Yes, Jennifer.
So I was on planning
Mhm.
as well as Beth, and I can tell you that the intent was to put in regulations because they didn't exist. The intent was not to exclude certain zones. So I would like council to be aware of what the intent was at the time that these regulations were put in place. It was definitely not exclusionary. It was literally to put them in place because none existed. And so it would be a really great opportunity to look at where they're being allowed, because again, it was not an exclusionary attempt.
One more comment, the customers really do love the food trucks and it actually helps my business as well. Because it's more of a dinner thing and, you know, they come in for other things like drinks and things.
So this is public comment. So is there council consensus to bring this back to the planning commission? Okay,
All
so
right,
take that, so.
thank
you
you.
bet. And then work with Selena on other
Yeah,
areas
they
that
will.
are allowed in Covington for the time being. Yep, so, okay. Thank you, Sonia. It's good to see you. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to address council at this time? Sam?
Thank you. I'm Sam Pace and I live outside the city of Covington and I just wanted to thank you for recognizing Jennifer. I'm reminded of a couple of things. Robert Kennedy, who I have kind of a sure tail connection to, because my uncle was his administrative assistant for organized crime and race relations when he was attorney general. I know some of his family members. And so I've kind of paid a little bit of attention to what he said. I remember one of the things he said is that few will have the greatness to bend history itself, but each of us can work to change a small portion of events, and in the total of all those acts will be written the history of this generation. James Buchanan said, and it's relevant because Jennifer's done more than just her fair share of the acts. She's also, in the face of enormous challenges that for the most part have never surfaced. She's been a leader. And Buchanan said the test of leadership is not to put greatness into humanity, but to elicit it. But the greatness is already there. She brought out the best, the greatness in all of the rest of us. Thank you for honoring that tonight.
Thank you, Sam. Is there anybody else in the audience wishing to address council this evening? Is there anybody online wishing to address council? Thank you all very much for the comments, public comment. We will have a second opportunity towards the end of this meeting for another public comment period. Next is approval of the consent agenda, items C1 through C5.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda, items C1 through C5. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda has been approved. Next up is a public hearing. So tonight we have a public hearing to receive testimony from the public regarding the proposed 6-year 2025-2030 Transportation Improvement Program known as TIP. And Bob, if you'd like to give actually, this being the date set and proper notices have been posted and published in accordance With state and local law, the public hearing is hereby declared open, and Bob will provide the staff report. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you for allowing me this opportunity. This evening, I will be presenting a draft of the 2025 to 2030 Transportation Improvement Plan. I just realized this might be my 11th time coming before you,
Wow.
and I'm still using the same slides, so if they're out
Nice.
of date, you could tell me. During this time, we would like to share with you the progress on last year's transportation plan, and we would like to give you the opportunity to provide feedback or make changes. In agenda item 1, attachment 2 of your packets, you will see the draft of the 6-year transportation improvement plan map. This draft map should look quite familiar, 11 years familiar. It provides a quick visualization to transportation needs within the city. In agenda item 1, attachment 1 of your packets, a summary of the 6-year tip can be found. The proposed draft prioritization list has slightly changed this year and includes a new pedestrian bridge feasibility study. As updates, our Jenkins Creek construction project will be completed this year. And after much anticipation, this project will finally fall off of a tip. As far as the Covington connector goes, construction of phase 1, 204th was completed in 22. And construction of the Covington connector at SR 18 ramps was completed in 2023. And we are working on closing that project out once the plant establishment period is complete. Lake Point Boulevard was advertised and bid in January of 2024, and construction should begin this July. We are cautiously optimistic again in our Southeast 256 fish barrier removal and culvert and widening. And we plan on applying for TIB grants again late this summer. As far as our SR 516 and 185th to 192nd Southeast widening project, it is proceeding steadily, approaching 70% design, and we will be obligating and kicking off right away shortly. Our SR 516 and Covington Way project design is around 40%, and we are moving forward with the roundabout design. We had to give up our right-of-way funds, but we have reapplied for the PSRC funding. Our new addition to our 6-year tip this year is our pedestrian bridge feasibility study that I mentioned earlier. The remaining attachments in your packet include the remaining projects and their descriptions. In the interest of time, I could refrain from going through each project, and I could open up to questions and guidance. I could also provide you with any project updates at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. All right. The ground rules for public comment during the public hearing are as follows. When your name is called, step up to the microphone, give your name and state whether you're a resident of the city. Limit your comments to 4 minutes. City clerk will set a timer that will go off when your time is up. When the timer goes off, please wind up promptly. Is there anybody in the audience wishing to address the council on the TIP? Is there anybody online wishing to address council on the TIP? Please raise your hand. Seeing nobody approach the podium, I will declare the public hearing closed. And with that, does council have any questions for Bob?
Yeah.
Jennifer.
Yes, thank you. Pedestrian bridge, when are we expected to get the survey results on that? I'd kind of like to see those. I know we're not making a decision tonight, but I'd like to have those.
They're
before
kind
the
of
decision.
compiling that right now.
Okay,
So I imagine within a month, we'll probably have.
okay. And when is it expected for council to make a decision on the plan,
Ooh,
on this plan? Usually we see it a month and a half-ish.
Oh,
ahead.
you're
this
talking the 6-year tip?
Mhm.
Oh, we already have plans to bring
Oh.
it back to 28
The 28th of,
this month.
okay.
Vote on it in 2 weeks.
I would like the survey results before I approve the pedestrian bridge being number 6 as far as the priority. Just because at mayor's meetup, it was one person giving me feedback, but I'm hearing the public may not be super excited about this, so it may not necessarily rise to number 6, if that's possible.
Why is the pedestrian bridge listed as number 6?
Have you guys tallied the survey results yet, Bob?
No, it's not complete. And as far as priority goes, it's not really dictated by the schedule and it could be. 3
You know,
years.
I've always thought when we got this, that this was a priority.
Well, it's kind of. We have 5 projects going on now, so.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I don't want necessarily resources focused on it as next. If
Yeah.
that's not really where it should be in line.
Even if it's on the tip, the only resources that will be spent on that are what we've already received legislative allocations for.
Right, but I don't want us pursuing legislative, you see what I'm saying? Like, there's other
Mhm.
activities that may be associated with it, and we're just going gung ho, and maybe number 7 should be in front of it.
Yeah.
That's, so if we could get that info to help
Can you
us
work
make a
with
better
Delaney,
decision.
Bob, on
Yeah.
seeing what, I think the survey's still open.
If I can,
Yes,
can I interject?
Don.
Yeah, I just, Delaney actually sent me a message already. We should be getting that, results within the next couple days, but not sure that we're gonna be able to, it may not be in a great presentable fashion yet. So we'll have to look at that and how that comes about. But just as Regan mentioned as well, a lot of the reason why it's sitting in the spot that it is because of the design funding that we have, or the feasibility and design funding that we have right now. And so without, those funds or whatever, obviously it would be a lot further down on the list, and there wasn't anything that's obligated beyond that, because it's I can't remember, I was going to pull that back up. I don't see it in front of me at the second, but Bob, is there any other funding that's shown on the,
No, it's just 24 and 25 years.
just for the funding that we've already had? We're not
Yeah,
basically showing that we're planning for anything beyond that at this point.
yeah, no right away, no construction planning.
It's just the 300,000 that's been allocated already, and that's why it's in the position where it's at.
Correct.
Correct.
That answer.
It does. I just want to make sure that we're not using this as a priority list to seek funding as well. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
We really kind of determine the funding. The tip's something we're required to do, but as
Yeah.
far as going after projects, it really kind of dictates the appetite for the funding agencies that we're going after. And all those we bring in council as well.
Mhm.
The pedestrian bridge, I've heard kind of some of the same comments as well, good and bad
Mhm.
about it. So I'll say that's not, beyond the work we're doing right now, it's not a priority beyond that at this point. But if council, as soon as we have those results, I can push them out to council. But if you're not comfortable adding it to the tip, I don't know that that's something we need to do.
Okay, okay, that's, all right. Okay, thank you.
Sean?
Thank you, Bob, and I appreciate your work on this and your teams continuing to push these projects. I really appreciate seeing the work on 272nd, making that dream of, widening out to the border with Maple Valley. I think they'll be outstanding. I also like the focus on 256. I think with the Covington connector getting finished, and then new developments going in, I guess, to the west of the reserve, I think we're gonna see a lot more traffic on that road. And one of the things I've been hearing from some residents is it's getting difficult to make left turns off 160th onto 256th. So I'm not saying it needs to be today, but something about, and as traffic continues, you're gonna see people backed up trying to get out of their neighborhood. So some type of dedicated turn lane or maybe even a long-term roundabout at that intersection, or even a stoplight at some point, but people are starting to notice that it's getting difficult getting out of their neighborhoods, and it's gonna get even more difficult, so. Just want to put it, I don't know how to put that on the radar, but at some point start looking for funding at that point too.
Don?
Yeah, just a little bit about that too. Keep in mind that as we're going through our comp plan update right now, we are also looking at our overall 20-year capital plan and everything too, as far as looking at the impacts and that type of thing. So areas where we need to add projects or change because of the growth and congestion, those will be things that will be coming back in future tips and or I should say capital facilities planning or capital planning in the future. So that will help us. We're actually working with our consultant and stuff, and with Selena and her team with the comp plan as far as identifying some of those things.
Okay.
So that's part of the thing that helps us when we're doing the comp plan, is we're also looking at, okay, what's growth doing and what are some of the intersections or things that need to have additional projects or whatever addressed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don. Beth?
I know Jennifer already touched on this, and I think, I mean, you were explaining about funds being committed to certain projects, and that's kind of where they got bumped up the list because they're already in flight, or at least research is being done. But if I was, looking at it from a resident standpoint, like Wax Road, Covington Way is something that is, a touch point for a lot of people, or potentially, more trafficked areas as the development goes in. I mean, I think it's fine that a pedestrian bridge is on here because we are looking at it, and it could certainly improve quality of life for some people. But to Jennifer's point, some folks are like, what does it do, right? Like, if we're not really seeing a lot of pedestrian accidents, but we're seeing auto accidents in particular areas, it seems like that might be where our residents would want us to focus it. So, I mean, in my opinion, I don't know that a result from the pedestrian bridge would make me want to put it above. I mean, it could be still on there, but lower. So I would recommend it bumps below number 7, like maybe 6 and 7, at least flip flop. Because I think we still need to advocate for that, even though it's a county road, part of it, but our residents don't care when they see accidents happening and it impacts traffic for hours on end. So.
I think you're right. I think council and staff and the community are aligned in what those priorities should be. There was a pot of money that could study pedestrian bridges, so we went after that,
Sure,
right?
yeah, that's fair.
And so that's why it's there, but it doesn't need to be a council priority.
And we can move that down on the list. I mean, it doesn't have to be at that location. Like I said, some of it has to do with the fact that we have money. If there's concern as far as how that is being viewed as priority, we can definitely move that down if that's something like 7 or something like that was mentioned, or even further down if that's if we want to bring that below the 516 corridor. So are we wanting to set that at like 9 or something like that? So that can be done. That's no problem.
Thank you for that.
So if council wishes to drop that down, when do you want that information? When we just bring it back on May 28th, or you want it now to bring back at that lower number.
Yeah, if that's what we're hearing from council, drop that down, we can bring that back at the next one. And if you want that, if my hearing, I guess it would be great if there's thoughts. I mean, would this be at like where number 8 is now, or number 9 is now? Is that, in other words, you would put it after 11:31? Is that what we're talking about, or are we talking about?
By making that down to number 9 and moving everything else up.
Okay.
Council's thoughts.
Yep, I'm fine with that.
Is council fine with that? Okay,
Not a problem.
all right, thank you. Council have any other questions for Bob or Don? Bob, thank you very much for
Thank
always
you.
bringing this back, and Don, thank you for being available as well.
Yes, thank you, Don.
All right, and there is no further action on this tonight. It'll be brought back on the May 28th council agenda for further action. Next up is new business item number 2, to appoint the voting delegate for the 2024 Puget Sound Regional Council General Assembly. Normally I am available to attend this, but I will not be able to make it this year, as it is held on May 30th at 10:30 in downtown Seattle. So I don't know if there's anyone else that can make it to this.
I'm sharing a JRC meeting, so I can't.
Okay.
at that time.
Yeah, I was planning on it being the 23rd, and it got bumped to that week. So I guess we won't have anybody there.
Not a problem.
No, it's not a problem. I can share our thoughts with, Mayor Ralph, with Kim, because she'll be there, even though she can't vote for us. And then, Regan and I will be meeting with Josh Brown of PSRC next Tuesday at 10 o'clock, so we can talk to him at that time as well. All right, so no action on item number 2. Next up is new business item number 3, authorize the city manager to execute a master services agreement with Flock Group Incorporated for license plate readers. I will turn this over to Regan and Adam. I can't wait. I've seen this presentation from other cities, and this is.
Okay, so today we're gonna talk about flock cameras and what they have for you. First off, the flock camera are mounted on light poles, or they can be mounted on their own pole. They can be mounted wherever we would like them. They are license plate readers. So the whole goal of them is just to take snapshots of license plates. So as you can see with the picture you have up there on the screen, we can actually use the technology to determine or look for a car of any make, model, year. We can narrow that down. We can narrow it down to stickers on the front or back. We can narrow it down to not having a license plate. We can narrow it down to damage in certain sections. So there's a bunch of parameters which you can do to search. We have already used this technology through Kent to solve the issue we had over there at the ATM machine there at ECU. So it's very helpful and successful technology. So the whole point of it is to have indiscriminate evidence. So this does not take photographs of people in the car. All it is taking is of that license plate. And so it's not something that we can use to individualize toward anybody. It does not tell us who's in the car. It doesn't give us that information. It just tells you that the car was at this point at this place in time. It doesn't have facial recognition, so it's not doing anything of that sort. I've already talked about a bunch of this, but the whole point of it is gathering stuff that's objective. So like we can get video from any different store for anything normally for evidence, and we would use that. It's an objective piece of evidence that we can just look at and say, well, this is just a factual thing. It's the same thing with a flock. Again, it's not used for facial recognition. It's not for personally identifiable information. It's also not used for traffic enforcement. So we cannot use it to do red light tickets. We cannot use it for speed. That's not what this is for. So this doesn't do any of those things. We don't have those, and that I'm perfectly happy with that. So they're a pain. The last thing there on this list is the data is only stored for 30 days. So we are not creating a massive government database. to store all of your license plate information. It is stored for 30 days. After 30 days, it is purged. We can't look at it or retain it, which is fine because I don't really generally have stuff after 30 days that I would want to look for anyway. So after 30 days, that information is purged. One thing that I may not be on the slides is the photos that are taken are retained by Flock. They are not our property. When we search it and we find stuff that we take as evidence, we would take that individual photo out and store it as evidence, and everything else is purged. So if it's not stored as evidence, it goes away. This technology comes, it's used in a laptop or an app on the officers' phones. It gives real-time alerts. So for instance, today we were looking for a organized retail theft suspect. We were using Kent's to help us give us real-time alerts as to where this person was. We never did find him, but we were able to kind of go in the same direction and look for him using the real-time alerts. It obviously assists in our investigations, and it is actually a deterrent. Kent has these and has actually helped them dramatically lower their crime. So for our crime trends, and this is going to be kind of how we use those, we've already seen some drops in burglary and residential and commercial areas, which is a good thing. We would hope with this technology that we'd be able to solve more of those when they occur. So we also have had a lot of auto theft, and auto theft's one of the things that this particular technology can really assist us with. We have organized retail theft that we've been working very hard on. These numbers I put on there last week, they've already changed. But this year we've now charged 4. We just charged 1 this week. And we started investigating another 4. That is something that this technology can be used to help us with. So for instance, in organized retail theft, a lot of times they use the same car because it's difficult to keep stealing different cars. And we can put in an alert for us to say, hey, this car is flagging on one of the cameras. And it'll tell us, it'll just boom, it'll pop up for us and be like, oh, yep, we want to go and check the stores right now because this guy's in town. So we can use it to help prevent crime. Just a kind of view of commercial burglaries and motor vehicle theft, which is kind of 2 of our bigger felony issues that we're dealing with. We obviously have a theft issue that we've been dealing with also. I think I've already talked about most of this. Yep, I have. Some safeguards. So again, the officer's only seeing the front and back license plate or the front or back of the car. This does not show the interior, does not show the occupants. Every search that an officer conducts in the system is audited. It can be audited, but it's tracked. The officers will be required to put in a case number or a CAD number. So that's something we can go back and look and see if this was a reasonable search. If we're having a problem for something, we do not want the officers searching for things for the fun of it. And we already have those safeguards in place for access information. So your license plates, your name, we can't just run those willy-nilly. We have to have some reason to do that. So those safeguards are already in place with us and will continue with Flock. And again, the data is only stored for 30 days and it belongs to Flock. We can pull it for evidence. At that point, it's kept in evidence.com. Otherwise, it's purged. So we're not keeping a database of these things. Are there any questions?
Debbie.
Thank you. So since this has been helping to solve some crimes, I'm assuming it's admissible in court.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Sean.
I've got, a handful. So are you?
I'm ready to go.
Okay. Nothing confrontational. I mean, I think this is really kind of cool. Thanks for answering how long images are kept. I'm just curious, how many images do we think we're gonna generate? I mean, that's gotta be gazillions, Is it every single car if we put on 272nd? It's gonna take, so if I drove it 3 or 4 times, it'd capture my license plate 3 or 4 times and. just-
Yes, we're gonna have more than one camera on 272nd, most likely. And so each time you pass through the camera, it will
Okay.
take an image of your car.
And is it front and back?
Front and back,
Okay.
if the camera's facing that way. So
Okay,
sometimes
yeah.
the camera's only facing one direction. It will only take the photo of your back plate,
Yeah.
for instance.
You mentioned images, but are they fixed or can you get video of that too?
They're fixed
Fixed
images.
images, okay. And this is just I'm just interested. How is the police department of the city gonna determine where to put these cameras and what criteria are you using for that?
So right now, we're discussing with Flock the best placement for
Mhm.
them. One of the places, or one of the things that we want to do is cover the ingress and egress of the city
Yeah.
as best as we can. So like, for instance, on Southeast 272nd, we would have one to our east and west borders, so that
Mhm.
way we can capture who's coming and going on those ways. We would probably also put one on Covington Way.
Yeah.
There near Costco, to help us with that out, or maybe even out near Wax Road, because that's kind of a border for us. We'd probably put one near 256 and Highway 18,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
that, and as we grow, we would want to add them anywhere, because Lake Point will be another driver for these. But the point would be that they're in the highest area where we have the most crime. So 272nd
Yeah.
is where we have most of our issues, and we would place most of them on that road.
I do want to add to that, though, under this current contract that Adam's presenting, it doesn't cover all of those areas that we'd like to eventually get covered.
Yeah, okay. Just said 8 cameras in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can build onto that.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. And then one of the things, using technology, obviously can help us, solve crimes, but, one of the best parts of it is that we want to deter it or prevent it in the first place. And I wonder, are there ways, or have communities done things to promote the fact that, these cameras exist, and if you're stealing cars in Covington, you're gonna get caught. And so, I don't know how to do that. But are there ways to basically, put a giant banner? I just don't want it to be used to catch them. I want it to have them think twice about stealing the car in Covington in the first place.
Right, they are visible, so it's not, I mean, not.
But does it say,
It
we're taking
doesn't,
pictures of
yeah,
your
it's not
pants,
gonna have
of
a
your,
huge thing
yeah,
that says
yeah,
block camera.
yeah.
I mean, I suppose we could put a sign up if we wanted to. saying,
I'm just
you know,
wondering,
yeah.
is that, there's gotta be a way, if you've got a lot and you got a dog, you don't not have a sign that says beware of dog. You don't want them getting in there and then getting mauled by your dog. You don't want them going in the first place. So, I'm just wondering about, there's gotta be ways to, maybe in our newsletter or with, just, you're gonna get caught, and just don't do it, so.
Christina?
Thank you. Sorry, I'm not fast enough today. Just picking back up of what Sean said, I'm just thinking as devil's advocate, if we advertise these cameras, we've seen enough movies to know that, hey, they see the camera, they know what the camera does. Have any of the cameras in Kent, say, been shot down, been taken down? Are they accessible enough to be taken down? I agree completely where it's like, don't come to Covington or you'll get caught. But I also don't want to be like, hey, here's the camera, here's another target.
Right, so the lease agreement with Flock is if the cameras are damaged, they come and replace them at their cost. So we're not charged for them, we just lease the equipment from them. So for instance, if this were to be an issue where our camera was shot at or whatever, we would be able to use Flock, notify them, hey, our camera's not working, they would come and replace it. They are up pretty high on the pole, they're near to where the lights are. They're closer to that than they are to the ground, so they're pretty far up there. I don't want to climb up and try to grab them, because I'm scared of heights, but I think they're far enough up to where it'd be really difficult for them to hit the camera, because it's not that big.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, one more thing.
Okay.
Just on that, on defeating those cameras, I've seen people put reflectors or, things over their license plates. I mean, obviously that's illegal, but will these cameras still work with that? And how do we police that?
So they have some technology in the camera that does defeat some of those
Okay.
covers, like they put on to avoid paying your toll.
Yeah,
So there's some infrared
okay.
type things within the cameras that would detect the plate, even if they have those fancy covers.
Great if it would ping to say they've got that, then you just go out and get them and here's your ticket for that too.
I could also add that we don't need the license plate to necessarily find the vehicle. We can get make, model, and
Oh,
color
okay.
and find with that too.
Yeah.
Okay. Beth?
So I appreciate the technology, and I think that there was concern about privacy. I mean, for
Yes.
people that are, getting their facial recognition, so it's nice to know that that's not part of this plan. How, how many other jurisdictions close to us? I mean, it's kind of a communal regional thing, like it gains benefit when we're tapping into other people's databases, as you mentioned with Kent. How popular is it right now?
So most of the agencies in the valley have it.
Okay.
Tukwila, Kent, I believe Renton, Des Moines,
Okay.
Black Diamond has them. So they're growing in popularity. It's kind of the new movement in policing.
Mhm.
So they are pretty popular and they are being placed throughout King County. So
Two more questions.
Okay.
So is there a way to ping, it sounds like there's a way to ping specifically if a car doesn't have a plate? Because to me, that seems like a majority of the crimes that are committed are either committed, well, with a stolen car that they remove the plate, or it's a false plate, but, is there a way to ping that so that officers can go, oh, wait, somebody without a plate's driving around, that's not considered a traffic violation necessarily, or is it? Is that
So,
something you can't?
yeah, we
really-
can't use it for traffic violations,
Right.
so we wouldn't be working that part of it. But
Okay.
what we would do is if we could search by the type of car. So if we get
Okay.
a red sedan with no plates, we can search and go, oh, well, during that time frame, here's a red sedan with no plates.
Got it, okay.
And then we can follow up on where it went. So one of the benefits is we tie into the network, we can kind of track this thing all over the place.
Okay. And then can we move the cameras if we decide that the location needs to be changed? Is that part of the contract where they'll do that, or do we need to pay extra for that?
No, we can move the cameras. We would pay a small fee
Fee.
in terms of just an installation fee.
Okay, thank you.
And those cameras have also been used to catch murderers and other
Mhm.
cases out of Federal Way and Tukwila.
Yeah, Kent had one last summer that they had a shooting. They immediately put the license plate in, it pinged, and an officer got in pursuit with it that came through Covington and ended in Tiger Mountain, but they did arrest the suspect. So it worked that quickly, which is awesome.
Wow, that's good. All right. Thank you, Adam. Any other questions? Thank you. So before us tonight is the potential to authorize the city manager to execute a master services agreement with Flock Group Incorporated for license plate reader cameras in substantial form as attached. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Joe, would you like to speak to your motion?
With the rise in car thefts, the rise in people just fleeing crimes in general, I think this is a good move. It's going to help our officers find those suspects, even if it means that they find out which one it is and they give a call to Kent and say, hey, look out for this guy, is on your way. You have an officer in the area, stop him. I think this would be a great tool for us. I am happy to see that does take into consideration all state laws and making sure that it is the right way. And I just want to commend our chief for finding this.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Beth, would you like to speak to your second?
In all of the community engagements that I've been to, and I'm sure I'm not alone, public safety officers, policing, trying to make our streets safer is one of the #1 priorities for residents and businesses, and we've heard about that through CEDAS as well. So anything that we can do that, again, is law abiding, is not crossing the line into personal infringement, but that gets those results that our communities want, I think is important. And it's a 2-year contract. If for some reason we decide that it isn't working, we can always change our minds. But I think giving it a try is the most logical thing right now.
Thank you, Beth. Anybody else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to authorize the city manager to execute a master services agreement with Flock Group Incorporated for license plate reader cameras in substantial form as attached. All those in favor state aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you. Next up is new business item number 4, an emergency ordinance of the city council of the city of Covington, Washington, relating to adopting a 12-month moratorium on the acceptance, processing, and or approval of applications for building and land development permits and related land use decisions for battery energy storage system facilities to be located within the city of Covington. And that Regan Selena. Thank you.
Great. Good evening, Council and Mayor. This agenda item tonight is before you to present a proposed emergency moratorium for the battery energy storage systems, which is BESS, within the city of Covington city limits. The proposed moratorium would temporarily halt the development, land use, and construction of any BESS. So if we got an application in, we would not be able to accept it under this moratorium. This pause in that process would allow staff time to engage with stakeholders, the industry experts, environmental folks, everyone that we've kind of heard from and learned from on this topic, with the goal of developing regulations pertinent to the city of Covington that address the concerns that we've heard relating to permitting, siting, safety, environmental. And also that will allow us some time to get caught up with some of the legislative requirements and some of the things that are currently happening in the industry. I think the law moved a little bit faster than, or the industry moved a little bit faster than the law. So they'll give us a little bit of time to get our heads wrapped around that environment. So under the RCWs, the council does have the authority to adopt a 12-year moratorium on a specific, I'm sorry.
Was
12
12
year?
I mean,
12 months.
12, did I say
Yeah.
12 year? I apologize.
No,
12
I
months.
I like it.
I was like, yeah. Wow.
A 12-month moratorium on a specific land use activity, which in this case would be the BESS. After that, if we didn't resolve this within the 12 months, then it would come back to the council subsequently every 6 months. We would be renewing it, similar to what you're experiencing with the interim zoning under HB 1220. So the RCW do mandate that a public hearing be held within 60 days of the council's decision. Should the council move forward on that tonight, the public hearing is scheduled for the June 11th meeting. So if there's any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll leave this to the council.
Sean, I just want to say how fitting it is. It's the first council meeting in June that it would come back if we move forward with it. That's when we had our other public hearing.
Last year, yeah.
Or public,
No.
Mhm.
Sean,
I appreciate this. I just, yeah, I think we should move sooner, quicker than later. Yeah, I don't have any, I guess, comments on the ordinance itself. I'm just wondering. We have, so I saw, other communities are adopting similar moratoriums. Have they been challenged at all yet that we know of?
I have not heard from my peers in those other jurisdictions around any challenges to date.
And then I know, we got the response from Ecology, on the ways these facilities can be authorized. I'm assuming that's in unincorporated areas that they're talking about. I mean, one is a local, so we could do it in our own community, but the other two, one was county and then the other was the state agency.
Yeah, so there's actually two methodology. Well, there's three,
Yeah.
right? There is, they come into the city of Covington, we process them within the city of Covington. That's for a project proposed within our jurisdiction. The second option is that an industry vendor, builder of these could go to the Department of Ecology. Now, Department of Ecology's role is just to facilitate the permit process. And so they are not a decider and they do not override local control, right? Local jurisdictional control. They just facilitate. The third option is the FSAC, the Energy Facility, I'm gonna mess up that acronym, but the Energy Siting Facility Commission. It's a state-led commission, a state board, made up of folks appointed by the governor. And the industry could go to that board. And if the industry goes to that board will appoint someone from this jurisdiction whereby that facility is proposed to sit on the board for that decision-making process. That board can override local jurisdictional control. So even if we had a moratorium, if they went to that board, they technically could override that zoning provisions. And then that decision is actually signed by the governor, appealable to Superior Court. Now they have a whole process. This isn't done, behind closed doors. There is a very large, extensive public process that's outlined on their website and that they shared with us. The ecology process is just a facilitative process, but they would still follow the local jurisdictional process for for that use. Is that?
Yeah, no, I
clear?
appreciate that. And that's good to know about the FSEC, could potentially override us, with the moratorium. That includes also if we adopted an ordinance as well, I would assume.
My understanding of that
Yeah.
question is yes.
And then what about the county? I know they're working on rules as well for this. Could
Yeah,
they-
so-
They could overturn.
So the county doesn't have jurisdictional control over the city of
Understood.
Covington.
Okay.
Their regulations will only apply to sites within the county themselves.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say someone with a site within the county still would go through those
Yeah.
processes, right? But the county wouldn't have say in what Covington chooses to
Okay.
do.
Okay, Joe?
I understand why we should do this, but my major question is there even land available, or not even, it doesn't even have to be available at this moment. Is there even land in the city that would be able to hold one of these buses? Is it, and where in the city could they even be located as of this, if one showed up tomorrow?
Anywhere along a high power, sorry.
Yeah.
You got-
Creek substation is at 204th.
Yeah, you have that correct, Mayor. So my understanding from the industry is that they want to be around 230 kV substations because they tap into that to store that power, right? And then they redistribute that power back into the grid system.
Yeah.
And the 230 is the ideal situation for them. We have a 230 substation, which is the Berrydale substation, which is north of the city, right outside the city limits, near where the most recent one in the county is. That's not to say you couldn't put them elsewhere in the city.
How much land do they need to have?
They would scale that. So it's a scalable demand model. So if they would look at that, maybe they could put it on an acre, maybe they need 5 acres. It's generally pretty scalable. If you look at PSE's project portfolio on this, they have some pretty small projects, then they have some larger projects that they're evaluating.
Okay.
Debbie?
Well, just to tag on to Joe's question, so is there available land in the industrial zoned area? Do we presently have acreage available in industrial?
So in our industrial zone, just looking at our zoning map, and I probably should have added one of those to the packet and I apologize, but so if you think about Covington's downtown, the industrial zone that we've identified as actual industrial zone, is mostly occupied already by Bonneville Power Association. There's one parcel there that is privately owned. The other portion of those properties on what we would consider the south side of Covington Way across from Costco, that's general commercial zone. And then anything on the north side of Covington Way, that's town center zone. So, you could put those in the industrial zone. And then it's up to the private market to determine if that's a viable location for their product. The thing that I want to just mention, and this would be things we would study, but the feedback also is that, again, they want to tie into a 230 kV. So if you're putting them there, then the industry or the vendor has to think about, if I put it there, I still have to string wires to that 230 kV location. So, and if that became a viable solution, then now you have overhead through your downtown from that site. So it is a trade-off, but also it's going to be an economic, as we know, I think that's fair to say, determination of the industry, whether that's a viable location. So really Covington's responsibility is to determine where these go, what zones we feel that they're appropriate, and then the industry will determine if that is for them. And if it's not, they may come back to the council and ask for a different zoning, but we can cross that bridge when we get there,
Thank
based
you.
on the outcome of our final zoning determination.
Thank you.
And just because, right now we only have the one substation in town and the one outside. PSC has already stated that they want to build another substation, even though it's been on the back burner for a while, across from Real Life Church. So
Oh.
that's also a potential down the road if PSE moves forward with that. And that's right on that 230
Wow,
power line where the
Okay.
road's closed.
real life church.
Mm.
Yeah, that's where the substation was originally planned, but they didn't follow through with the permits, so it's just, but it's still on their, their capital list to do it sometime. Jennifer,
Would this apply to those little bitty ones from your presentation? You know what I'm talking about as part of like HOAs and parks and.
Yeah, right now, the way that this is written, that it would be any of those battery energy storage facilities. The building code does cover those smaller ancillary ones, but that would be part of that larger. I don't think we're gonna go in and regulate if someone puts a Tesla battery in their basement to charge their car. But if you're looking more at like a community center or a clubhouse, best type of facility, then yeah, we would wanna make that clear for our zoning
Okay,
regulations.
and this would put a moratorium on even those until we
It would,
work
like on the
that out.
clubhouse level.
Okay,
Yes.
okay,
Not
thank
Yeah.
you.
Private homes wouldn't be.
any other questions? Okay, before us is to potentially adopt an emergency ordinance of the city of Covington, Washington, imposing a temporary 12-month moratorium on the acceptance, processing, and or approval of applications for building and land development permits and related land use decisions for battery energy storage systems located or proposed to be located within the city of Covington. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Beth, would you like to speak to your motion?
I think we've already covered it. There's no need to bring up anything else.
Thank you. Debbie, would you like to
I
speak to your
agree.
second?
Thank you. We need more time to establish how this would or wouldn't work in Covington, and in that 12 months, give us the ability to learn from other jurisdictions that have done this and what problems they've had.
Anybody else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Right, it's been moved and seconded to adopt an emergency ordinance of the city of Covington, Washington, imposing a temporary 12-month moratorium on the acceptance, processing, and or approval of applications for building and land development permits and related land use decisions for battery energy storage systems located or proposed to be located within the city of Covington. All those in favor state aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you all very much. Next up that concludes our new business. So next is future agenda items. We have it was brought up to discuss offering discounts to Covington business owners for community room rentals. Jennifer, did you want to speak to this?
Yeah, sure. So I was out and about and a business owner mentioned to me that they were surprised that there wasn't a discount to business owners for use of our community room. And I thought, wow, that's a great point. We always stress our collaboration with our businesses and, celebrate those that choose to open their doors in our community, knowing obviously a lot of them aren't necessarily residents. And so I said, I'll bring it up and, emailed Regan and Jeff. And so that's why it's here to see if council agrees that that's something we should consider. And I believe it would be asking staff to come back with a couple of options or something for us to consider. Regan.
Yeah, we already offer a resident discount, so it can be modeled around that, I think.
Is there consensus to bring this back for a future agenda item? Okay,
Great. Thanks.
we'll do that. Thank you. Thank you, Christina. Anything else that council would like to see on a future agenda? All right, looking at our future agendas, we do have our Tri-City meeting a week from tomorrow on May 22nd here in Covington. It is being hosted by Black Diamond. And then on after Memorial Day, we have our next council meeting on May 28th. We do have potential commission interviews that night, and then are starting at 6 and the council meeting at 7. With that, let's move into council staff comments, and we'll start with Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I have nothing further tonight.
Great, thank you. Thanks for the presentation on the flock tonight.
Mhm.
Ethan,
Yeah, just one quick item to share. There is a art call out right now for artists. This will be for the next round of vinyl art wraps on traffic boxes. We'll be looking at doing, I think, 4 or 5 more of those. So that's up on the website. We'll be reviewing submissions in June. So that's exciting. Nothing else. Thank you.
thank you. Don,
Just one thing I wanted to let you know, the CCP athletic field, innovation has started this week, so that's, exciting. So if you want an opportunity to see something that's probably not something you normally see regularly, then, give it a look. So anyway, we're excited about that. Right now, the new sod is supposed to be big rolls of sod coming next Monday. So fingers crossed with all of that. That's it.
thank you, Don. Selena,
Hi, just a couple items for the council on an update. The planning commission is looking at their last comprehensive plan element on this Thursday. So we've gone through all of the elements. This last one is transportation. Once they approve or they get through that, then that draft is going to go to Puget Sound Regional Council, and then the housing will go to King County Housing. We'll be providing the council with just a final draft for informational purposes, just so you know, probably at the June or July meeting. Our goal is to get this off to PSRC by June 30th. That's our draft deadline. Then it goes out to all the agencies that have jurisdiction over our comprehensive plan. We'll gather all that information over the summer. Then when we get that information back, then we're gonna come back to the council in a series of study sessions, probably 1 or 2, to walk you through the comprehensive plan update, the feedback we got, leading towards an adoption, ideally by December 2024, if not earlier, right? So we're aiming for that. As part of this process, we have our last open house for the comprehensive plan that the Planning Commission's holding on June 12th. This is actually a joint meeting with our friends in Public Works because we're doing transportation focused and capital focused at this open house. We will be also talking a little bit about pedestrian bridge. So we'll be bringing that into that conversation and holistically looking at kind of that capital need across the city. So more to come on that. And then just confirming that we've got food trucks on the work plan for the Planning Commission now. Thank you.
thank you, Selena. I saw Casey earlier. She's
Her
not-
daughter just went into labor about
Oh.
30 minutes ago. so
Okay,
She left.
good.
What?
And Mark is not on tonight, so Regan.
Nothing other than that we will have an executive session pursuant to RCW 42.3.12 subsection 1C to discuss the potential purchase of real property.
Okay, and that will be about, what, 10 minutes?
Yeah. 15, let's go 15.
Wow.
Yeah, someone.
This better be
Yeah.
good property if you're
Someone
taking up 15
thought
minutes.
Okay.
Time.
Thanks, Regan. Krista,
I have nothing further this evening. Thank you.
thank you. Christina,
Nothing for me. Thank you for bearing with me. Current
Chris.
situation is right here.
Okay.
So, thank you all. It was a wonderful meeting.
Thank you. Beth,
There's been a lot of fun stuff going on, getting a chance to get out into the community with the mayor's meetup and doing the litter cleanup and some of the other community events going on. So looking forward to more of that in the summertime, engaging with the community. I want to thank, I don't know whose decision it was. I assume it was a city decision. My husband and I missed the Northern Lights on Friday night. We just thought it was all hype and did not stay up for it. And so Saturday we went out looking for it and we went to CCP and the gates were open, the lights were on. There were like 30 people in there all on the same thing. And I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it was nice that people.
Did you like it?
I did because.
Then it was intentional.
good answer.
We couldn't see
Exactly
anything,
where he
we
was
couldn't
going.
see anything, but I thought,
Yeah.
well, if there's one way to.
There's
keep
actually a
people-
party there every weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and
Yeah.
what a way to keep people in there at midnight and 1 AM to prevent things from happening. that-
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
Thought maybe we could do that more
Yeah.
often. Anyway, I thought it was. So, Anyway, looking forward to the Tri-City meeting and, that's about it.
Thanks, Beth.
Yeah.
Sean?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple things. It's been a while since I've updated the council. The Kim Schreier and the Puget Sound RFA, as well as Covington and Maple Valley, held a wildland fire town hall about 2 weeks ago at Tahoma Middle School. There was about 25 people in attendance asking about potential risk of wildland fire here in Covington. Representative Schreier talked about some of the things she's doing in Washington to increase funding for wildland fire suppression, but also fighting, providing additional resources for new equipment. The RFA talked about the resources they have on site, including a couple of in between what are called brush trucks. So they're not huge engines, but they're not small 4x4s either. They're kind of a hybrid that can be used for wildland fire access and attack. And they are, I think, some of the first of these types of vehicles on the west side of the mountain. So we've already last year had requests to have them deployed. The fire department, kind of talked about their philosophy on how they would prioritize wildland firefighting, because obviously the east side has a high risk, but definitely want to take care of, make sure they have enough resources here at home, and would recall them if need be, if the situation arises. So I thought it was great. Afterward, I talked to Chief Carson about the possibility of having a follow-up meeting to this the end of this summer to kind of talk about how the season went, lessons learned. And so just to kind of put a pin in that they're open to that. The Tahoma Middle School had, great facilities, but I think continuing, because there was enough interest and the meeting was so short, because if you have ever dealt with a representative, they're always basically running to the next meeting. So it was over at 6:30 and she was out the door. And I think we could have probably talked for another hour there. So there's, I think, demand for that type of information. And so I would recommend, and let's talk about having some type of joint meeting with the RFA. And they said, we don't even have to have the Congresswoman. If she wants to, that'd be great, but we could do it without her. I too enjoyed the Timberlane Mayor's street cleaning. Was really a lot of fun. I was encouraged to hear Regan's take on how it had been just 6 months ago, that it's staying fairly clean. So, if you looked, we found, obviously, I think it was 11 bags, but it wasn't as bad as I've seen some other streets. So that was encouraging. We got a number of attaboys, or thank you for doing that. So that always is always good. Attended the Makers Market as well. I was, even though it was a cold and kind of wet day, I was impressed to see how many people were attending, and I just kind of chatted up some of the vendors, and they actually believe, because it was on the same day as Maple Valley's, they saw more people coming. So they were coming to the area anyway. And they said, well, Covington's is just down the road. Let's go to that one also. So I would think it would be the opposite, but they were saying we actually have seen a bump in traffic, and they think it's because they had it on the same day. So two more things and I'll be done. I drove down Covington Way the other day, first time, and saw all the development that's going on in Founders Park. If you haven't gone by, it's great. I mean, they're getting the trails in there, and the picnic tables are in, and I was like, this is great. Sorry, I guess I gotta stop, so. That's exciting.
Yeah.
And then well done
Must have
to
been
everyone.
on a time.
Yeah, I was like, do I have a time? And then just the last thing, I just want to give a shout out to the police department on catching the BECU shooters. It was just outstanding, just, textbook police work. And I just really am grateful for that. And I know the community was shaken by that whole thing, and just the fact that we, if I understand correctly, identified them pretty darn quickly. It was just building the case. And so that's reassuring. And so please pass that along.
So before I move on, I just want to, so a city to our west of us has a don't mess with. Should we get
Yeah.
stickers like that we can put on there, don't mess with Covington or
Yeah,
something like that?
Covtown.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Don't do your crime here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't flock in Covington or something, so.
Don't flock with Covington.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a better one. but
Okay.
Don't
Yeah.
block. Don't block.
Don't flock with me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep.
Saying.
So
Yeah.
as we had the honor tonight to celebrate Jennifer and all that she's done for the storehouse. It's sad being on the board for the storehouse to see her go, but we know that she'll do much more with the bigger span of control in King County. But I wanted to make sure that everyone has heard that Stephanie Lawson has taken over as the new executive director for the storehouse. And we also have a lot of faith in her and her background with the community, her advocacy for children, for food insecurity. So perhaps at one of the future meeting, I'll have her attend and everyone can meet her. Kim Schreier her assistant asked to come out and do a tour of the storehouse a couple weeks ago, in part because she had heard Jennifer speak at the 47th District Legislators Town Hall. She was impressed by what we've done there in a small space. So I think every little bit, we get a little bit more of an eye opener for what's happening in Covington. So I was proud of that. Arbor Day celebration was fun. I had not taken part of that before because I'm not a real planter in the woods kind of a person. But what was most encouraging was meeting the school leaders, the sixth graders, the leaders of that group. They were just they were very organized and very attentive. Christina was there, Mayor Wagner was there, and learned a lot about the trees and how things grew from the tribal lands, and it was very informative. So I didn't get to plant anything, but that's okay. My husband and I went out and tried the new View Prime Steakhouse. So if you haven't tried it, it's very different and it's not as expensive as I thought it would be.
Okay.
And it was Mother's Day, so I'm sure they were probably busier than most. Also on the council cleanup on our Adopt a Street, Jennifer Leeden and I were paired together, and we had done the main road and we weren't finding a lot, which was great, but we had extra time. So we went down the side road and into the gutters, and I found a switchblade, so at least we got that off the streets. There was a lot of trash in there, and you really can't see it from, if you're driving down the road, maybe because you're looking down a little bit, but from walking down the street, you don't see it unless you're like closer into the gutter. So I don't know how to make a recommendation or a suggestion that next year we add that little segment on. I think there are enough of us that even with just who we had there Saturday, we could have done it. So Krista, that's just. And I will be here for the next council meeting, and also missing the Tri-Cities meeting. So I am really gonna miss that, but I'll be back for the June 11th. June 11th. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you, Krista, for coordinating mayor's meetup and hanging out and making sure that we had everything that we needed there. It was great. It was nice. I got water and mayor had dinner with his family. So it was a great venue, and we got some surprise people, meaning they didn't necessarily know we were there and just showed up. And so that was great, because I think many of our other venues, it's more, you're only getting people that know about it and came to see you. So it was nice to kind of get those surprise attacks. One guy asked if we were like campaigning for ourselves, so it was nice to be able to say, we're doing resident outreach, not here to, you know, benefit ourselves as individuals. So it was a good event. Ryan 9, in the spring and summer, and I think Sean, you covered one of these events for me last year when I was out of town, but we do these field trips, which for me, I'm a marine bio major, so I'm a total dork about salmon and all of that. And we went to, it's called a screw trap, and they catch juvenile salmon, tag them, count them right over by Green River Meats. Super, I have photos. You guys can look at them if you want. But it was super fascinating, and they put these little tiny, I have a picture of that too, the thing that they insert under the skin of the little juvenile salmon. And then they have, they call them antenna, but it's essentially something that identifies them as they flow
Flock
through.
salmon.
Yeah, exactly. It's flock for salmon.
Yeah, it is.
Exactly that. So Raya 9 is able to see if some of this habitat restoration and stuff is actually benefiting, because you can see, you know, how long the fish are hanging out there. And this is just juveniles, not adults, but also allows us to get to the point of, you know, seeking funding for adult programs to really use this data in a productive way. So that was so fascinating to me. And then also we approved funding for the Wingfield Little Sue's Creek project. So 224K will be going to that project where there's flooding. I think it's Coho Creek, ironically, neighborhood. So anyway, it was our management meeting. So, or no, it was our membership meeting. So we did get membership approval for that. So yeah, it was a great meeting. And then, yes, Adopt a Street was great. There was not as much trash as I expected. So it is surprising that you saw that trash on that little side road. I was telling Mayor how impressed I was compared to like wax road cleanups and stuff. This I felt was great. Portia and I were just making great time.
I think a lot of the leaves cover what's in there and you don't see it.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Joe?
So last Wednesday, I got to run my first PIC meeting as chair of PIC. Chris Roberts was not able to make it, so I was in charge of PIC. Sound Cities is still standing. There's nothing wrong. We're still okay. We had a presentation from the King Conservation District. They were talking about their fee increases, and it was more, they didn't have all of the details back yet from their vendor, from the vendor that you were using to study some of this. So they gave a basic presentation of some of the information. I have contact information and can get the presentation that she gave to us if you want it. But it was basically saying that fees aren't going to be increasing for the next couple of years, just based off of how things are at the moment. But there will be some fees for some things, some fee increases, but for the majority of things, fees aren't increasing. We also we presented, when I say we, I mean the members of the PIC operating committee who are looking over the PIC operating procedures, presented to the PIC as a whole, the changes that we're looking at. I can show you the document. It's a lot of red lines. It's a lot of making some change, making new ideas and seeing if we can work and seeing how they stick to the bylaws of SCA. We are realizing we need to make some changes to some of the thoughts we made because they don't fit to the bylaws or they don't just flow the way we want them to. So then that was our discussion on Friday when we had our operations meeting for PIC, but that meeting was David and Andy from SCA and Chris Roberts and myself. A lot of people, we have a meeting every Friday at 3 p.m. It's just been one of those where we just have some making sure everyone can make it at that time. And we will have another meeting this week, but I should have better language to share with everybody on the PIC operating procedures in the next couple weeks. So you can all see it in case, and especially Christina, in case there's a meeting I can't get to, so she can see how it goes. I have RTC this week. We're not voting on anything. We are going to talk about the Metro ridership recovery and service planning. I will be making a plea again to them to start looking at getting more transit out this way. I know that they're talking about some van service. I know that Debbie and I have talked about it offline about some van services that they could use for connecting some of our students in the area to being able, so they can stay after school instead of having to worry on an activity bus. They can stay after school for homework help, sports or whatever, and they can still get home without having to walk supreme distances. Other than that, I did not make it to cleanup this weekend because Saturday was Ryan's 17th birthday. And to celebrate, I took him to get his learner's permit. And then he went and drove for the first time as a permitted driver. Did really well. He hasn't gotten behind the wheel since, however, but we did it in a parking lot, so everyone was, so it was fine. And then on a personal note, I have technically graduated from college. I say technically because I still have 3 weeks left to finish my student teaching, but the commencement ceremony was May 1st. In Phoenix, and I was not in Phoenix. I was here teaching classes, but I was there in spirit and had a ceremonial drink to celebrate. So,
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Joe.
Correct.
Congratulations. Realize tomorrow is Peace Officers Memorial Day. Should have brought something up for proclamation stuff, but it's a day of remembrance for all those that have put their life on the line. So in spirit. So thank you, Chief, and to your entire team for stepping out there on a daily basis.
Oh, thank you.
This. Cedar Heights this Friday and then Monday and Tuesday is the, we are making ourselves available. 8th graders on Friday, 6th graders Monday, and 7th graders on Tuesday. Did they give us an agenda yet or topics of what they wanted us to speak about?
I do have a message out to the social studies
Okay.
coordinator, and she has not yet gotten back to me on the topics. So, and I have a question out to her to clarify the amount of time that you will be speaking. I don't know if you'll be using the full class period. So I am waiting for clarification on that.
So when I've spoken in the past to individual classes, it's usually I speak about the difference between our form of government, which is council manager, versus like Kent, which is mayor council, strong mayor council, and then just giving a brief update about the city, transportation, parks, and what businesses are coming in. And mostly what they want to know is when the road's going to be finished out at Red Robin every time for years. So that's, and then I
Now we
think I
can say this year.
Yeah. And I spoke for maybe 15 minutes and then spent the rest of the time answering questions. And there's several that are very good. And there's one young lady who's now, so she's 9th grade at Kent Lake. She lives in Covington. And she's going to apply for youth council. And I see her as being, I think she'll skip right over council and go right to Olympia. She is very good at the questions and running the class. Just wanted to let you know, I submitted, for the salary survey, I submitted 5 names to Regan, and he submitted to Krista to be vetted. And then those will be brought back to council for final approval. The last mayor's meetup, thank you, Jennifer, Beth, and Krista for being there. Brogan called me the next day and thanked us for being there because there's several people that had never been there before that showed up. And so we appreciated that. And the ribbon cutting for the View Mexican Steakhouse was awesome. It was a joint ribbon cutting between the city of Covington, the city of Kent, the Chamber of Commerce of both Covington and Kent. It was very well attended. And then tomorrow is another ribbon cutting for Newberry Realty, who moved from Kent and is going right next door to Bruchelle's. And he's already open, but the ribbon cutting is tomorrow at 2:30. Anybody wishes to attend. And with that, that's all I have for tonight. We'll go into our second public comment period. Speakers will state their name, address, and organization. Comments are directed to city council, not the audience or staff. Comments are to be related to city business. Comments are not intended for conversation or debate and are limited to no more than 4 minutes per speaker. Is there anybody in the audience wishing? Sam?
Thank you. Sam Pace, 29839 154th Avenue Southeast, Kent, 98042. I did not testify in the public hearing under the TIP, but I do not want to let it pass without mentioning that this council, in our view, and I'm speaking on behalf of the 8,000 realtors here in King County that I represent in South King County, the 11 cities. The first priority of local government is public safety, and the second is basic infrastructure. We believe the quality of life begins with a good job in a company that's got a great future and a home is where that job goes at night. And it's nice if you can get from the job to the home. And you have been investing for a long time in transportation projects that are really important for whether or not folks will have an opportunity to live close to where they work. And while folks are concerned about how soon they're going to get to one of the businesses that's across the creek, we have not lost sight of the fact that that project began initially as a way to address transportation concurrency moratorium on development east of that location in the city. And tonight, you still have that connector as a top priority in the city. So you've stuck to your knitting and you've done a great job with it. And we want to encourage your continued work, your successful work in that regard. Second, just a thought about messaging as it relates to flock cameras. I read all of the agendas I can get my hands on for all of the 11 cities in South King County: Planning Commission, Arts Commission, City Council committees, the whole 9 yards. And I've seen a lot of conversation about the flock cameras and those coming in. I had the opportunity to be the beneficiary of one of those that was mobile when the state police used it to, they're driving through a Costco lot and got a ping, and it was my stolen truck that showed up. I think there's the potential for a lot of privacy concerns. I don't think that those are well-founded, but as it relates to your messaging, I believe that one of the options that you have available is to talk about what that technology has done in Covington and for Covington. Once you have that, rather than trying to talk early about what it will do, if you can frame it in terms of the results, it makes it much more difficult for folks to horribilize it. Finally, the issue of batteries. You've heard tonight about the different levels, the city, the county, the state agencies and other entities that are involved in it, the kinds of reviews, the kinds of things that you can look at. There is a whole nother layer of very complex analysis that is available for addressing those issues. I'm not going to go into that tonight, but it allows you an opportunity to play far beyond your own borders and way above your own weight class in terms of dealing with that issue. I'm pleased that you took, there are two options in the GMA statute, 390 or whatever that subsection is that deals with moratoriums, 309. You can do a 6 month or you can do a 12 month if you're going to study it. One of the things you might want to look at is studying the transmission line as a separate entity from the storage facility itself. I say that based on some stuff related to the Endangered Species Act and what's called the nuclear option there. I won't go further than that tonight, but I just want to indicate that I have reason to believe that you have some really significant opportunities to play hardball beyond your borders and way above your weight class in order to protect what's inside your borders. Thanks.
Thank you, Sam. Is there anybody else wishing to address council this evening? With that, our public comment period is closed. We are going to, with no further business, we're going to move into executive session to discuss potential real estate acquisition for no more than 15 minutes. So we will be back at 9:19, at which time no further action will be taken. Good evening. We have concluded our executive session. No further action is being taken. This meeting is adjourned at 9:19.